episode of the Airport Communities Podcast. This is weird. Normally, I have at least one person to help produce this stuff, but we're working on just a ton of material, including comments for the SAMP. So I'm just winging it today in response to last Saturday's Aviation Forum at Highline College, sponsored by Representative Adam Smith, Commission President Ryan Calkins, and Senator Tina Orwell. And it's worth sort of, fact-checking a little bit here. We have a link to the video, which is great that they recorded it, but it's kind of hard to hear. We generated a transcript, and we wanted to, kind of dig into the details. And we do not talk much about avgas here at STNI because, as Commission President Calkins rightly said, it's essentially not used at Sea-Tac Airport, but it's still worth taking a beat on. We kind of expect elected officials to be experts and to have answers. They're not. They're usually kind of winging it on many details. You probably know more than they do, which is scary, kids. Sorry, that leaked out. A member of the King County International Airport, Boeing Field Roundtable, they have a roundtable just like START. Well, he showed up and asked what progress had been made on unleaded fuel for avgas. And props, because that's what you want to do. You want to tell them things they probably don't know. Now look, Representative Smith has been in office for decades now. He's been on airport issues for years. But he was straightforward enough to admit he did not know that leaded fuel was still in use at Boeing Field, even though Calkins knew that there was no lead at Sea-Tac. He didn't know about Boeing Field either. That's not a slam. Why should they? I'm not a mind reader. However, I did work in the auto industry and am keenly aware of how lead was taken out of auto fuel. So I find their lack of knowledge on this understandable. If you are interested in avgas and lead at all, you should learn about one of my heroes, Claire Patterson. We have a ton of material at STNI. He's the person most responsible for getting lead out of automobile fuel. It was a slog that took many decades. Here's the thing. Most people assumed that when they took lead out of gasoline, auto gasoline, that meant all gasoline. And this wasn't some ancient history. This was only 1997. My lawnmower runs fine on unleaded gas. We have farm equipment that runs fine on unleaded. Unless you're a pilot, you probably assume that, gasoline is gasoline. Maybe there's some different octanes and so on. It's probably never occurred to you that there is almost no unleaded avgas in use at general aviation airports. There's none at Boeing Field right now. There won't be for years. Every attempt gets dramatic pushback from a very small, very vocal group of people, and we're not going to go there today. So, other than the fact that it's not used at Sea-Tac or any big commercial airport, why else wouldn't we talk about avgas? Because, ironically, although it took so long to get lead out of automobile fuel, lead has become a radioactive word. I'm kind of mixing my toxic metaphors here. But it's now easy to get people energized about lead. We've learned how terrible it is, even in small amounts. But It's not part of the SAMP. What gets missed is that ultrafine particles coming out of commercial jet fuel combustion by quantity alone, um, that's orders of magnitude greater. It's just that UFPs have not been regulated. This is an old joke. You know why they call it research? It's not a search, it's a research. Get it? You do the same darn thing over and over to nail it down. People haven't yet made the distinction between, roughly 450,000 commercial operations a year at Sea-Tac and, a couple hundred piston aircraft. Both are real, but they are not the same. Commissioner Calkins also talked about the DNL 65, the noise boundary, and how unfortunate it is that the FAA only allows sound insulation inside that contour. That is not what the rule says. And we try so hard to be nice, but we have to hammer on this stuff because just saying it politely once or twice or 20 times doesn't seem to do it. The FAA reimburses inside a boundary called the DNL 65. If your home is inside that boundary, they will reimburse the Port of Seattle for providing sound insulation. It is not a mandate. If the port wants to spend its own money on any noise mitigation program it likes outside the DNL 65, the FAA would be happy to discuss creating such a plan and probably give them a standing O. Okay, nobody is stopping them. If you want a sincere conversation about getting past DNL 65, it starts with being willing to spend your own money outside the DNL 65. There are talks of property tax rebates, and we're not super excited because one of the problems with airports and Sea-Tac in particular is that over time they have been detrimental to city budgets. That is one of the arguments that the cities are making now, and we are nervous about anything that might make that worse just to send the average homeowner $2 or $3, because that's what we're talking about. Someone brought up the concept of wheels down. People see the aircraft lowering their wheels and they freak. Wheels down is a standard safety practice as early as 3 miles out. What has happened is the poor communication from the FAA over the years has made people just associate anything untoward, just a go around, totally normal thing, with something really chaotic in the airspace. And that's just not true. Somehow we have to better educate the public as to what is normal and what is not living next to this airport. So the real problem is, you can't find the FAA community ombudsman, the person who's supposed to talk to us, with a Geiger counter, even though his office is in Des Moines on 216th. And we know how this sounds. It's just pick, 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 pick. We don't want anyone getting a get out of jail free card. We don't want someone to talk about leaded fuel at an airport where they don't pump leaded fuel and where they don't have any control. We don't want anyone getting past incorrect statements about the DNL 65 or the vagaries of taxes or the need for more research. We want people at the table who know the material and can drive the discussion to a best practice long-term plan that benefits all of us. You cannot negotiate productively without a shared set of facts where everybody just agrees, here's the reality. So we're not trying to shame and blame. We know everyone is sincere. They're trying their best. Every one of them has many other fish to fry. Congressman Smith, for example, is dealing with this small item of yet another war in the Middle East. And I'm like, oh my God, not again. It's really hard to get people to focus. We're just trying to say that the people in these rooms are not the people that need to be in the room. What you want at these meetings are essentially technocrats, experts, researchers, the people you do not hear from. Otherwise, you get a lot of very sincere people, but everyone talking past one another and almost no one knowing the difference.